Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to call to order the special city commission meeting tonight for November 9th, 2021, 7 p.m. We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky.
Here.
Commissioner Hudak.
Here.
Commissioner Clemens.
Here.
Vice Mayor Preston. Mayor Vance.
Here. And if we could have a moment of silence there, pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We can have the approval of the agenda for November 9th.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion to second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Madam Clerk.
Members of the public wishing to provide comments during tonight's meeting, 3 minutes will be provided for over 1 additional minute will be granted 1 hearing. Meeting are connected online using the US pass at the bottom of the screen and click the participants. To raise hand, you will be recognized by your profile name and your audio will be unmuted. Those participating via mobile or landline, dial *9 to raise your hand. You will be recognized by the last 3 digits of your number. You may dial *6 to unmute if necessary.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 2 items on consent tonight, items number 1 and 2. What is the commission's pleasure to consider them together or individually?
Does anyone want to pull either item 1 or 2 for discussion? Is everyone all right with us doing it all together? Okay. Anyone from the public? Is anyone written in? No one's written in. No one here. Care to comment on item 1 or 2? Okay. Go ahead.
Just so looking for a roll call vote, it would be on these 2.
Okay. You need to read each one?
Not if it's going to be considered together.
Okay. We're looking for a motion.
Motion to approve. Items 1 and 2. Second.
We have a motion and a second for items 1 and 2. We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky.
Yes.
Commissioner Hudak.
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens.
Yes.
Mayor Vance.
Yes.
Item number 3 is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, adopting an amendment to the city budget for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2021. Approving departmental budget transfers in the amount of $1,543,000 within the general fund, approving supplemental appropriations in the amount of $63,885 for the nuisance abatement fund, and appropriating the loan proceeds from the fund balance, the Energy Performance Project Fund, in the amount of $1,829,000. Approving supplemental budget appropriations to the Crime Prevention Fund for the $7,350 private contribution received by the city, providing for conflict severability and an effective date. And this is first reading.
Hi there.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
I take that back. You might need to speak up just a little bit.
okay.
And you'll have to introduce yourself for everybody in the audience.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Stephanie Tensley. I'm the CFO here at Deerfield Beach. And I'm here to present the FY21 fiscal year closeout budget amendment. And I have a short presentation, I promise. The agenda for tonight is going to go over the regulatory requirements related to the accounting and budget environment that we have to work under, and then high-level review of the proposed budget amendment. It's only a few items related to the general fund nuisance abatement, energy performance, and the crime prevention fund. So the next slide, please. So at the national level, the regulations are wrapped around the accounting and the recognition of revenue and expenditures, which is the GASB, Governmental Accounting Standards Board, as well as GAAP standards, which is generally accepted accounting principles. And so we are required to recognize revenues and expenses in a certain way. So revenues, we have to recognize them when they're measurable and available. And so there's a standard that, for example, the property taxes that are received up to 60 days after the fiscal year need to be recognized within the prior fiscal year. And then all other revenue sources, we are allowed up to 3 months after the fiscal year. So some of the revenues actually they're received in the new fiscal year related to the prior fiscal year because there's a lag. Same thing with the expenditures. So the expenditures have to be recognized when the goods or services are actually received by 9/30. So, and then if the goods and services are received by 9/30, we incur the liability because we owe for those goods and services. So we have to recognize them back in the prior fiscal year. So often invoices related to those goods and services are coming in October, and in some cases even into November. So in a local level, the next slide, please. The state regulations, now we jump over to budget. So at a national level, accounting is regulated at that level. Budgets are regulated at a state and local level. So the state regulations, the Florida statute 166.24, section 7, try to mirror what the accounting standards do. So they allow for us to amend our budget up to 60 days after the fiscal year end. And they have a couple of different ways. So if there is a decrease or increase, we can do it by motion, which is not applicable in this case here. But B and C are applicable. So B, we are doing an appropriation in which we are moving some expenses, some budget appropriation within a fund without actually increasing the appropriation. And then C is if A and B doesn't apply, then you default to C. And therefore the budget amendment needs to be adopted in the way that the original budget was adopted. And that is because there will be new appropriation. Okay. And with section B, we actually have in our local charter, if you want to flip to the next slide, please, have set up a couple of ways that we amend the budget after adoption. So in the city charter, section 5.05, one is a supplemental appropriation, which is basically recognizing excess revenues that may have been received. And in that way, the commission can do it by ordinance. And so there is a couple of the funds that we are recognizing additional appropriation that was received. And then section 3, transfer of appropriations. So in the general fund, we're basically just transferring budget appropriation from one department to another to cover some gaps. And so that is allowed in that way too. And so, so we covered there. So why a special city commission meeting? Well, because the reason is that since we adopted the budget by ordinance and we're doing the transfer appropriation or the supplemental appropriation by ordinance, it requires the 2 readings. And we adopted the budget that way as well. So we have to mirror it the same way. And so, if we flip to the next slide, please. And so high level, the budget amendment. So the general fund, no change in the appropriation, overall appropriation, but there are some adjustments between departments as we have outlined. So the financial services, we extended a little bit above due to the additional auditing and reporting services that we needed during the year. That is being covered by some telephone charge savings that was realized in the central services area. Law enforcement, we budgeted for a certain amount of vacancy credits based on historical trends. Those were not realized. They had very good recruitment throughout the year, so there wasn't not as much vacancy credit as what had been seen in the prior years. And so that was covered by the programs and events and personnel that we did budget for in Parks and Rec at the time, thinking about the change in the environment related to COVID. But then as those items in the COVID environment did not change, it was ups and downs and fluctuations. There were some savings there, so we moved it over. We're requesting to move it to cover the law enforcement. And then under the debt service, actual expenses are classified correctly. And so we're basically moving some of the budget appropriation from non-departmental to cover the debt service that is in that category. Non-departmental covers multiple categories, including debt service. And so over time, as I continue to develop the budgets year over year, some of these areas that are kind of seem like I don't know what to do with area, non-departmental central services, we're reclassifying them so it would be a lot more transparent as to what the spend is, more upfront.
I'm sorry, say that again.
That the non-departmental covers several categories, including debt service. So there's some debt service in there, there's insurance, there's multiple categories that can actually be recognized or classified differently so that it's not non-departmental, doesn't really say a lot as to what it is.
This is to be specific, and to, like you said, be more transparent.
Exactly, to be more transparent, absolutely. Yes. And so that's the general fund, so no change there. The nuisance abatement assessment fund, they had some revenues that were recognized, or that we need to recognize that were received this in FY21. Plus they had some expenses that occurred as well. And so we need to recognize that revenue as well as some of their fund balance in order to cover the expenses that occurred related to nuisance abatement. The Energy Performance Project Fund, we just basically need to recognize the loan proceeds that were taken out for those related project expenditures. So that is just a recognition of that. So that's, and then Crime Prevention Fund, they received some private contribution and expended it within the same year for those programs. And so overall, it's not much at all. It's very simple.
So this is money that came in after the budget had been closed. Is that what I'm understanding?
No, that came in, I'm not exactly sure when it came in, but it came in pretty close towards the end.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe the last quarter or so.
All right.
So just for simplicity, to keep it all in one small amount, just have it all together.
City manager, any comments?
First, I want to thank Ms. Tinsley for the summary. So yes, some of these revenue sources to come in, during the fiscal year, but we want to take the approach with the city commission moving forward that we bring forward, if need be, a mid-year budget amendment and then an end-of-year budget amendment. We think that that's appropriate. If the city commission deems otherwise and would like something more frequently, we're happy to do that. We just don't want to create a lot of redundant processes. It does take quite a bit to put these budget amendments together, and then we want to make sure that we close the fiscal year, that we're able to see if we had any additional revenues coming, as you can see in this case here today, and make sure that we shore that up. And really, this is just about process improvement for us. And so I just want to make sure that the commission understands that this will be a normal occurrence moving forward.
Thank you. Commission, any comments? Commissioner Grassi.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a meeting with the city manager before tonight, so I don't have any questions about Ms. Tinsley's presentation. However, what I would like to do, and I did discuss this with the city manager before the meeting, is that we received, I believe all of us received, a series of questions related to the budget amendment from a resident, and Ms. Tinsley took the time to respond to those questions in detail, and I would like to put the questions and her responses into the record, this particular item, so if the public were ever to, pull the file, they can see, that not only did we have the presentation here tonight, but Ms. Tinsley also has responded to the public. It's a long series of questions and answers. I'm not going to go through it now, but I just like to put it into the record, and I'll be handing this to the clerk after the meeting.
Thank you. Did we ever get a response from the resident or non-resident who sent this in?
Not that I saw, no.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
He
Thank
just
you.
sent, he just simply said that he was going to be looking at it on Tuesday. So we get a chance to look at it, so.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Any comments from the public? Okay, I'm going to close it to the public. Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion from Commissioner Parnas, second by Commissioner Drosky. We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Burnett?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. I know we're up for adjournment. There's just a reminder I left it out there that Thursday and Veterans Day at 10 o'clock at the Brandhill Richardson Knowles Memorial. Are we doing the Brandhill? Is that what we're doing? We're doing at the Brandhill Richardson Knowles Memorial Park. We'll be having the Veterans Day ceremony. I know that Commissioner Hudak, Commissioner Parnas, and I believe the city manager will also be there. They are both, all three of them are veterans. I'm sure they'll be speaking. I do not believe I'll be able to attend that, but I want to thank staff for putting that together, and I'm glad that we are doing a Veterans Day ceremony here for everyone. We have our next commission meeting on November 16th, 2021. Anything else I need to cover, Mr. City Attorney or Mr. City Manager, before I close?
We're done with the agenda.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.